My security badge beeped red at exactly 9:14 a.m. on a Tuesday. I tried again, confused. The third swipe confirmed what my racing heart already suspected. I was locked out of the building I'd helped transform into a tech powerhouse over the last 8 years. Miss Reynolds? A thin woman from HR appeared beside me, clutching a manila folder. Her practiced smile never reached her eyes. Could you please come with me? I followed her through the side entrance, past curious stares from colleagues I'd mentored, into a sterile conference room where my personal items sat in a cardboard box. My laptop was missing. My name plaque was gone. Effective immediately, Allure Tech is terminating your position as COO, she said, sliding termination papers across the table. Through the glass wall, I caught William Chen, our CEO, averting his gaze. And there, smirking at my desk, was Melissa Hargrove, a recent hire, half my age, daughter of William's country club buddy, the girl I'd spent the past month training. Security will escort you to your car, the HR woman said, checking her watch. As I walked out, clutching my sad cardboard box, my name had already been removed from the directory. I sat in my car for almost an hour, watching through the glass facade as they celebrated something with champagne. 8 years of my life. Building Allure Tech from a struggling startup to a market leader worth $340 million. Erased in 15 minutes. The worst part? I'd trained my own replacement. Melissa Hargrove had joined just 5 weeks earlier. William introduced her as a fresh marketing talent who needed to learn the ropes. I'd spent countless hours explaining our systems, introducing her to key clients, walking her through proprietary processes I'd developed myself. Yesterday, she'd struggled to create a basic pivot table. "What's this green thing again?" she'd asked, pointing at an Excel spreadsheet. I patiently explained, never suspecting her confusion was an act. Now, I watched her sitting at my desk, laughing with William. Someone was already replacing the nameplate on my door. My phone buzzed with texts from colleagues. "WTF happened? Did you know?" The final text broke me. "Melissa just told the team you were let go for performance issues," she said. "Didn't know the old lady was so sensitive about feedback." I started the car and drove away, tears blurring the road ahead. For a week, I'd barely left my apartment. The blinds stayed closed, delivery food containers piled up, my phone died somewhere under a couch cushion, and I didn't bother charging it. Shame and rage cycled through me in waves, leaving me exhausted and hollow. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw William's averted gaze. I'd been there when his wife left him, when investors nearly pulled out during the 2020 crash. I'd covered for him during his 3-month executive retreat, actually a stint in rehab after a DUI. I restructured entire departments during COVID to keep the company afloat while he panicked about stock prices. What hurt most wasn't just the betrayal. It was the erasure. All my work attributed to others or simply forgotten. The Westbrook account I'd spent 9 months cultivating was now Melissa's big win. The Robinson merger I'd orchestrated was suddenly William's strategic vision. On the 7th day, my sister used her spare key to check on me. She found me surrounded by old performance reviews and company awards. "You need to shower," she said firmly. "Then we're getting you a lawyer." "What's the point? You're 43, not dead. And didn't you negotiate some special terms in your last contract?" My head snapped up. The contract. The clause. How could I have forgotten? After a shower and 3 cups of coffee, my brain finally started functioning again. I dug through my home office files until I found it. My employment contract from 2 years ago, after I'd saved the company from disaster during a particularly nasty product recall. I'd had leverage then. The board knew I was fielding offers from competitors. William had begged me to stay, promising expanded equity and a seat on the board that never materialized. Instead, I'd quietly negotiated something more valuable with our then legal counsel, a protection clause. There, in Section 23, subsection C, was my insurance policy. In the event of termination without documented cause, if replacement occurs within 45 days, all equity immediately vests plus severance equal to 2.5x annual compensation. If termination involves ethical violations including nepotism, all penalties double. I read it 3 times, hands shaking. My equity was worth $4.2 million. My annual compensation package was nearly $850,000. If they'd replaced me with an external candidate after proper notice, I'd have walked away with my standard severance. Instead, they'd handed my position to the unqualified daughter of the CEO's friend less than 36 hours after firing me. I called my sister. "Remember that lawyer you mentioned? I need one who specializes in employment law. Today." Elena Vasquez's office overlooked the bay, all clean lines and modern furniture. Her reputation preceded her. She'd won landmark cases against tech giants twice the size of Allure. When I called, her secretary offered an appointment 3 weeks out. When I mentioned William Chen and Allure Tech, I was meeting with Elena the next morning. "Tell me everything," she said, skipping small talk. I handed her the contract, emails, performance reviews, and awards. As she read, her expression remained neutral, but her eyes grew sharper. When she reached the protection clause, she paused. "Did you draft this yourself?" "Yes. Their lawyer tried to water it down, but I insisted." She nodded slowly, reading it again. "Most people don't realize how powerful specific language can be. This isn't just a severance clause, Miss Reynolds. This is a nuclear option." "What do you mean?" "They replaced you with the daughter of the CEO's friend within 2 days of termination. There's no documented performance issues. That triggers both the 45-day clause and the ethics violation multiplier. They owe you approximately $19.4 million, plus immediate vesting of all equity." 20 minutes later, she sent a letter. William's response came within the hour. "This is blackmail. We'll fight it to the end." William's lawyers pushed back hard. They claimed I'd been terminated for cause, citing leadership concerns that mysteriously appeared in my file the day after my termination. When Elena demanded documentation predating my firing, they stonewalled. "This is actually good for us," Elena explained. "The more they fabricate, the stronger our case becomes." She filed for expedited discovery, and the judge granted it. 2 days later, we received their initial disclosure, hundreds of heavily redacted emails and meeting notes. "They're hiding something big," Elena said, paging through the documents. "These redactions aren't just excessive, they're suspicious." She filed a motion compelling full disclosure, citing the redactions as evidence of bad faith. The judge agreed, ordering Allure to provide complete unredacted communications within 48 hours. When the files arrived, Elena called me immediately. "You need to come in. There's something you should see for yourself." In her office, she handed me a printout of an email chain between William and Harold Hargrove, Melissa's father. The earliest email was dated 3 months before my termination. "Just confirming our arrangement," Harold had written. "Melissa starts next month. Shadows the current COO, then steps in by quarter's end." William's reply made my stomach churn. "Can't wait to have her on board. The current COO is getting too expensive anyway, and she's been pushing for that board seat again." This solved both problems. The second folder contained screenshots from Allure's internal messaging platform. William had created a private channel called Transition Team that included himself, Melissa, Harold, and 2 board members who'd always supported William blindly. The casual cruelty of their conversations left me breathless. William had another meeting with the COO about the board seat. "Think she's finally getting the hint it's never happening." Melissa, "Can't wait to redecorate that corner office. So dreary right now." Harold, "Remember, Princess, you can change everything once she's gone. Just play nice until then." The most recent messages were from the day of my termination. Melissa, "Oh my God, did you see her face when security walked her out? Priceless." William, "Careful what you put in writing." Melissa, "What's she gonna do, sue us with her feelings? She'll probably write some crybaby post on LinkedIn about glass ceilings and age discrimination. What a dinosaur." Harold, "Just keep everything quiet for 45 days, and we're in the clear. She'll move on." They referenced the 45-day period specifically, Elena noted. "They knew about your clause. This proves malice and conspiracy." I stared at the messages, remembering how kindly I'd treated Melissa, how patiently I'd trained her. "What's our next move?" I asked. "We trigger the clause, publicly. Elena's formal trigger notice to Allure's board was a masterpiece. Clinical, devastating, and bulletproof. She attached the most damning evidence, including the email chain and chat logs, and cited the specific clause language. The final paragraph outlined the mathematics of my claim: $19.4 million plus immediate equity vesting, with a 14-day deadline for payment. She copied all 9 board members individually, ensuring William couldn't intercept or spin the information. The response was immediate chaos. 3 board members called emergency closed-door meetings. Allure's stock dipped 3% on rumors of executive turmoil. William issued a company-wide memo forbidding discussion of my departure, which only fueled speculation. By day 3, reporters were calling. A financial blog published a story titled, "Countdown at Allure, is a $20 million secret clause about to trigger?" Investors started asking questions. Competitors circled like sharks. On day 7, I received a text from Thomas Blackwood, the board's most independent voice. "This is extremely concerning. Some of us never saw these communications. Can we discuss privately?" Elena advised caution, but approved a meeting at her office. Thomas arrived looking haggard. "I had no idea," he said without preamble. William told the board this was a mutual separation. He never mentioned the 45-day clause or that Melissa was pre-selected. "The board is split," he confided. 4 members want to settle immediately. 3 are backing William. Melissa has made serious mistakes since taking over. The Westbrook account is threatening to walk. On day 10, everything exploded. Someone, presumably a board member, leaked the entire email chain and chat logs to TechCrunch. By noon, #AlterCrisis and #MelissaHargrove were trending. By evening, someone had created a parody account called Green Thing Girl, posting screenshots of Melissa's mocking comments alongside her LinkedIn claims of being a visionary tech leader. Former Allure employees began sharing stories of William's pattern of replacing qualified women with less experienced men from his social circle. Current employees anonymously detailed how projects I'd led were being reattributed to William or Melissa in internal documentation. The Westbrook account publicly announced they were reviewing their relationship with Allure due to concerning leadership changes. 3 other major clients followed suit. Allure's PR team released a statement calling the leaked materials edited and misrepresentative. William posted a company message claiming I'd been let go for strategic differences and promising an internal review. Nobody was buying it. By midnight, Allure's stock had dropped 12%. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from colleagues, industry contacts, and journalists. A prominent tech reporter DM'd me. "I'm covering this story. Would you like to go on record?" I thought about all the nights I'd worked until dawn, the vacations I'd canceled, the relationships I'd sacrificed for Allure. "Let's do the interview," I said. "It's time to speak my truth." After agreeing to the interview, I finally managed to fall asleep around 11:30 p.m. At exactly midnight, my phone rang, unknown number. Normally I'd ignore it, but something told me to answer. "Hello?" "This has gone far enough." William's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. "You need to call off your attack dogs and retract your demands. You're destroying the company you claim to care about." I sat up, fully awake now. "I'm not destroying anything, William. You did that when you conspired to replace me with an unqualified nepotism hire." "Be reasonable," he hissed. "I'm willing to offer you 6 months severance and a positive reference. This can all go away quietly." "It's a bit late for quiet, don't you think? The board has seen the evidence. The public has seen it too. You leaked those emails. Do you have any idea what you've done to Melissa? She's receiving death threats." That gave me pause. I never wanted anyone harmed. But then I remembered her mocking messages, her gleeful celebration of my humiliation. "I didn't leak anything," I said truthfully. "But I won't apologize for standing up for myself. The clause is clear, William. You knew about it and chose to ignore it. This will ruin your reputation," he threatened. "No one will hire a whistleblower. Better a whistleblower than someone who stays silent while being exploited. Goodbye, William." The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 8 a.m. By 7:30, I was sitting in Elena's office, watching live updates from our source inside Allure. Thomas had promised to text me developments as they occurred. His first message came at 8:07. "William trying to limit attendance. Thomas, Singh, Waterman, and Lopez only. Board secretary objecting." At 8:23, full board insisted on attending. William looks terrible, trying to frame as personal vendetta from you. At 8:41, evidence presentation underway. Chat logs projected on screen. William claiming out of context. At 9:02, Melissa brought in to explain chat messages, crying, blaming office culture. Not going well. At 9:30, financial officer presenting potential impact of clause payout plus negative publicity. Stock already down 18% pre-market. At 9:47, vote proposed. Remove William as CEO pending investigation. William attempting to adjourn meeting. The updates stopped for 17 excruciating minutes. Finally, at 10:04, Thomas texted again. Vote complete. 7:2 to remove William effective immediately. Board appointed interim CEO, Rodriguez from operations. William escorted from building. Emergency PR statement being drafted. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. William Chen was gone. But my vindication was short-lived. At 10:17, Thomas sent one final update. Melissa still in position pending review. Harold threatening legal action if she's removed. While William's removal was satisfying, it was only half the battle. Melissa remained COO, protected by her father's connections and legal threats. Meanwhile, Allure's interim CEO, Maria Rodriguez, reached out through proper channels with a settlement offer. Full payment of the clause amount in exchange for a non-disclosure agreement and dropping any further claims. It was a generous offer, $19.4 million and my fully vested equity. I could walk away wealthy and free. But something didn't sit right. They're buying your silence, Elena observed. Standard playbook. Pay off the whistleblower, sweep the rest under the rug, promote a woman to show progress, but keep the systemic problems intact. I remembered how Melissa had mocked me, how she'd gleefully participated in my humiliation, how she remained in the position I'd built. Despite having none of the qualifications or experience required, I need time to consider, I told Elena. That evening, a padded envelope arrived at my apartment with no return address. Inside was a USB drive labeled with a single word, peasant. My hand trembled as I plugged it into my computer. The drive contained hundreds of screenshots from Allure's messaging platform. Conversations Melissa had with other executives after my departure. She referred to staff as peasants and worker bees. She bragged about firing a project manager for questioning my authority when he'd simply asked for clarification. I immediately forwarded everything to Elena, who called back within minutes. This is explosive, she said, but we need to be careful. After consulting with Elena, we decided on a strategic approach. Rather than releasing all the screenshots at once, we selected the most egregious examples, focusing on Melissa's treatment of employees rather than her comments about me, and sent them to 3 trusted former colleagues still at Allure with a simple message. FYI. Protect yourselves. What happened next exceeded our expectations. Those colleagues shared the screenshots with others, who shared with more. Within 24 hours, Allure's internal communication channels fell silent as employees realized their COO viewed them with contempt. HR reported a sudden spike in people calling in sick. Then someone, not me, anonymously posted the worst screenshots on Twitter. The Bream Thing Girl parody account amplified them, and tech news sites picked up the story. #Peasant Revolt and #Allure Exodus started trending. Melissa panicked. In a catastrophic move, she sent a company-wide email, denying the screenshots and claiming I had fabricated them as revenge. She accused me of sabotage and cybercrime, and promised to pursue criminal charges. Her email, of course, was immediately leaked as well. By afternoon, Allure's PR team was in full crisis mode. The interim CEO issued a statement announcing an investigation into the alleged communications and reassuring clients of their commitment to a respectful workplace. That evening, Thomas texted me, emergency HR recommendation, terminate Melissa immediately. Too much damage control, board voting tomorrow. Elena replied with a single emoji, a popcorn bucket. The board vote was unanimous. Melissa was terminated, with a press release citing leadership incompatibility. She received a modest severance, nothing like what her father had expected, and was escorted from the building, much as I had been. Within days, she rebranded her LinkedIn profile as a digital transformation consultant and began posting inspirational quotes about pivoting and embracing change. But the internet never forgets. Every job application she submitted was met with silent rejection or polite demurral. Recruiters who'd once courted me called to ask about her, and while I never disparaged her directly, my silence spoke volumes. The screenshots had been archived on industry forums. The peasant comment became an inside joke throughout the tech world. 3 weeks after her termination, I received a LinkedIn message from Melissa. "I know we had our differences, but this has gone too far. No one will hire me. Daddy's connections can only do so much. Could we talk? Maybe you could tell people it was all a misunderstanding." I read the message twice, remembering her laughter as I'd been escorted out, her mockery in the chat logs, her glee at redecorating my office before I was even gone. I closed the message without responding. Elena called that afternoon with news. "Allure's board approved the full payment of your clause. The money will be transferred tomorrow." With William and Melissa gone, Allure began the painful process of rebuilding. Maria Rodriguez, the interim CEO, was competent but faced an uphill battle. The company's reputation had taken a serious hit. Clients were skittish. Investors were demanding answers. Most significantly, employees were leaving in droves. First went the senior leadership, my former allies who'd weathered William's regime, hoping for change. Then, mid-level managers. Finally, rank-and-file talent began updating their LinkedIn profiles and taking coffee meetings with competitors. My phone rang constantly with former colleagues seeking references or advice. I gave honest recommendations for the good ones, helping several land positions at respected firms. For those who'd enabled William's behavior or celebrated my downfall, my responses were professional but tepid. One evening, Maria herself called me. "I know this is unorthodox," she began hesitantly, "but we're hemorrhaging talent. People trusted you. Would you consider consulting for us during this transition? Name your price." I almost laughed. "I appreciate the offer, Maria, but that chapter of my life is closed." "We're trying to build something better," she pressed. "A more ethical culture." "I hope you succeed," I said sincerely, "but I can't be part of it." After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of wine and reviewed my financial situation. Between the clause payout, my vested equity, and the silence bonus, I had nearly $25 million. Sophia Lin wasn't just any venture capitalist. She was legendary in tech circles for backing women-led startups that disrupted entrenched players. Over lunch at her private club, she laid out her vision. Allure's project management platform was revolutionary when it launched, but they stagnated. The market is ripe for disruption. She sipped her sparkling water. "You built their COO dashboard system from scratch, didn't you?" I nodded cautiously. "The original architecture was mine, yes." "Did you sign an IP agreement covering that specific system?" My mind raced back through contracts and agreements. No, it wasn't part of my original job description. I built it on weekends to solve our internal inefficiencies. William always treated it as a side project, not a company asset. Sophia's smile was predatory. That's what I thought. "My legal team reviewed your employment agreements. There's a loophole. Anything you created outside your specific job duties that wasn't formally documented as company property potentially remains yours." She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a term sheet offering $10 million in seed funding for 20% equity in a new venture, with me as founder and CEO. "Why me?" I asked. "There are dozens of talented executives looking for backing." "Because you're not just talented. You're motivated." Her eyes gleamed. Revenge is a powerful motivator for innovation. Allure's response to the announcement was swift and predictable. Their legal team sent a threatening letter claiming my new venture violated non-compete clauses. Alina dismantled their arguments in a scathing response, pointing out that they had terminated me without cause, thereby invalidating most restrictive covenants. When legal intimidation failed, they switched tactics. 6 weeks after Prism's launch, Allure announced Allure Vantage, a hastily rebranded version of my COO dashboard with a few cosmetic changes. They slashed prices and offered extended free trials to prevent client defections. The market wasn't fooled. Tech reviewers who tested both systems immediately spotted the differences. One influential blog posted side-by-side screenshots with the headline, Allure's new product versus the real innovation, why knockoffs always fall short. A Reddit thread comparing the systems went viral, with former Allure engineers anonymously detailing how the rebranded product lacked the sophisticated architecture that had made my original dashboard so powerful. Comments piled up. Why does the knockoff version cost more and do less? This is like when my kid tries to copy my signature on a bad report card. Prism's workflow just makes sense. Allure Vantage feels like it was designed by committee. By month 3, we'd converted 12 major clients from Allure's roster, including the coveted Westbrook account. Our waitlist for demos grew so long we had to hire additional sales staff to manage demand. Allure's third quarter earnings call was a bloodbath. Revenue was down 22%. Operating costs had ballooned due to emergency hiring and client retention incentives. Most damaging, they'd lost 17% of their enterprise clients. With Prism publicly named as the primary beneficiary of those defections, the stock plummeted 11% overnight. Financial news sites published detailed analyses of Allure's systemic mismanagement and catastrophic brain drain. Shareholders filed formal complaints demanding leadership changes and strategic alternatives. At an emergency shareholder meeting, Gerald Hargrove led a faction demanding the reinstatement of several board members who'd been forced to resign after the scandal. His rant about activist employees and cancel culture was so tone-deaf that even his allies looked uncomfortable. The meeting devolved into chaos when a major institutional investor demanded to know exactly how much the company had paid me in settlement and whether anyone had been held accountable for that catastrophic decision. Most surprising was the lawsuit filed the next day, not by me against Allure, but by Allure shareholders against William, Harold, and the board members who had approved Melissa's appointment. They alleged breach of fiduciary duty and corporate waste, citing the clause payout as preventable damage caused by nepotism. I focused on building Prism, but I couldn't help checking Allure's stock price each morning, watching it fall lower each day as my own company's valuation soared. 6 months after his removal, William Chen re-emerged with a vengeance. He'd been quietly meeting with VC firms, portraying himself as the victim of woke politics and a disgruntled former employee. He secured modest funding for a new startup and began recruiting in the same space as Prism, offering equity to anyone willing to jump ship. But his most insidious tactic targeted me directly. He began spreading rumors to potential Prism clients that I had stolen proprietary code and was under federal investigation. He claimed my settlement was under review and might be rescinded. One investor called me directly. "William says you're about to be indicted. Is that true?" I forwarded everything to Elena, who documented each instance of defamation. We considered legal action, but Sophia suggested a different approach. "Let him keep talking," she advised. "The more outlandish his claims, the less credible he becomes." She was right. William's sabotage attempts backfired spectacularly. Each accusation led potential clients to contact me directly, giving us an opportunity to demonstrate Prism's transparency. We gained 3 major accounts specifically because CEOs were impressed by our professional response to the smears. The final blow came when a prominent tech publication ran a feature titled, "The Revenge That Wasn't: How Catherine Reynolds Built Success While William Chen Built Grudges." William's new venture folded before releasing a single product. Almost a year to the day after my termination, an email arrived from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read simply, "I'm sorry." William had written a rambling, late-night message, part apology, part self-pity. His new venture had failed spectacularly. His wife had filed for divorce. Most of his assets were frozen pending the shareholder lawsuit. Former friends had distanced themselves. He was, by his own admission, ruined. "I never meant for it to go this far," he wrote. "It was supposed to be a simple favor for Harold. 1 position, 1 promotion. I didn't think about the consequences." He asked if I would consider testifying on his behalf in the shareholder's suit, or perhaps investing in his next venture. "You always had vision," he wrote. "You could help me rebuild." I read the email 3 times, trying to parse his true intentions. Was this genuine remorse or another manipulation? Did it matter? Elena advised against responding at all. "It's a trap," she warned. "Anything you write could be used in his defense." Sophia was more blunt. "Delete it. He's desperate and looking for a lifeline." But something compelled me to reply. not with the anger I'd once felt, but with the clarity that comes from having moved beyond it. "William," I wrote, "I acknowledge your apology but cannot offer what you're seeking. The consequences you're facing are the direct result of your own actions and choices." William's last card emerged 3 days later. A financial journalist contacted me requesting comment on an anonymous tip about offshore accounts allegedly used to hide Allure funds during my tenure as COO. The implication was clear. William was trying to implicate me in financial misconduct. Elena connected me with a forensic accountant who specialized in corporate fraud. Together, we combed through every financial decision I'd overseen at Allure. We found nothing improper on my part, but we discovered something unexpected, a pattern of unusual transfers authorized by William himself. Small amounts had been regularly moved through a complex chain of subsidiaries before disappearing into accounts in the Cayman Islands. The transactions predated my time as COO and continued after my departure. Each was just small enough to avoid triggering compliance flags. "This is textbook embezzlement," the accountant explained. "Siphoning company funds to legitimate-looking expenses, then redirecting them offshore." I faced an ethical dilemma. Exposing William's scheme would destroy whatever remained of his reputation and likely lead to criminal charges. But remaining silent would make me complicit in the ongoing fraud affecting Allure's shareholders and employees. After careful consideration, I compiled the evidence and sent it directly to Thomas and Allure's new general counsel with a simple note. "Found while defending myself against recent allegations. Handle as you deem appropriate." 3 weeks later, federal agents arrested William on multiple counts of wire fraud, tax evasion, and embezzlement. The news of William's arrest was still fresh when Harold Hargrove called me. I recognized his number from my Allure days and nearly declined, but curiosity won out. "You've destroyed everything," he said without preamble, his voice trembling with barely controlled rage. "William's facing prison. Melissa can't find work anywhere in tech. My standing at the club is ruined. All because you couldn't gracefully step aside." I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "Is that really how you see it, Harold? That this is about me refusing to step aside?" "Don't play innocent," he snapped. "This vendetta has gone far enough. My daughter's life is ruined. Are you satisfied now?" The old me might have apologized, might have accepted his framing to avoid conflict. But I was no longer that person. "This was never about vengeance," I said calmly. "It was about consequences. You handed your daughter power she wasn't ready for. William gave her a position she hadn't earned. Both of you prioritized connections over competence, and the company suffered for it. I'm not responsible for the fallout of your choices." "You'll regret this," he threatened weakly. "I still have influence. People listen to me." "Perhaps they should have listened to the people actually doing the work," I replied. "Maybe you should have too." After a moment of stunned silence, Harold hung up. I set down my phone feeling oddly light. The calls had given me something I didn't realize I needed: closure. 18 months after my termination, I received an invitation to appear on a prominent tech podcast, hosted in the same downtown building as Allure's headquarters. A coincidence that felt too symbolic to ignore. As I rode the elevator to the podcast studio on the 32nd floor, I couldn't help remembering that day when my keycard had beeped red, when I'd carried a cardboard box of personal items past judgmental stares. Today, I wore a tailored suit and carried nothing but confidence. After the interview, a thoughtful discussion about resilience and innovation, I took the elevator down to the 17th floor on impulse. Allure's reception area had been redesigned, the company logo smaller and more subdued than I remembered. The young receptionist looked up as I approached. "Can I help you?" she asked pleasantly. I realized I had no purpose for being there. I didn't need to see anyone or prove anything. Allure was still operating, though at a fraction of its former size and value. Maria Rodriguez had been confirmed as permanent CEO. Thomas had mentioned they were slowly rebuilding, more cautiously this time. "You look familiar," the receptionist said, tilting her head. "Have you been here before?" I smiled, feeling a strange surge of compassion for this company I'd once loved, for the good people who remained, even for my younger self who had poured so much into these walls. "Just passing through," I replied gently. "Have a good day." I turned and walked back to the elevator, with no regrets and no desire to look back. 2 years after that fateful morning when my keycard stopped working. Prism crossed a milestone I'd once thought impossible: $10 million in monthly recurring revenue. Our software now powered operations for over 200 enterprise clients across 4 continents. We'd grown from a team of 5 to a family of 112 dedicated professionals, many of whom had followed me from Allure. The financial press dubbed it tech's most profitable revenge story, but that framing missed the point. Yes, I'd been wronged. Yes, I'd fought back. But Prism's success wasn't built on bitterness or retribution. It was built on addressing genuine market needs with integrity and innovation. The Wall Street Journal ran a feature comparing Allure's decline with Prism's meteoric rise, noting that while Allure's stock had lost 71% of its value, Prism's recent financing round valued the company at $820 million. Ms. Reynolds declined to discuss her former CEO, the article stated, preferring to focus on Prism's recent product innovations. My decision to stay focused on building, rather than gloating, had paid off. We weren't just financially successful. We were changing how companies approached management and transparency. The day we hit $10 million, I took the team out for an impromptu celebration. Later, a notification appeared on my phone. A publisher wanted my story. I smiled and nodded. I was going to accept, but not today. Today is all about my team and me.